On The Young and the Restless, family relationships are always complicated and full of tension. The feud between Victor Newman and the Abbott family is even more tense, as Victor is determined not to back down in his fight with the Abbotts, especially Jack and Kyle. Despite Michael's best efforts to convince Victor to give up his revenge plan, Victor is determined to pursue his goal, wasting no time or energy. This puts Victor in a fierce confrontation not only with Jack but also with Nikki, who has always been the mediator between the family forces. Victor Newman, determined and uncompromising Victor Newman, the head of Newman Enterprises, has always been a strong and decisive character. However, when family relationships begin to crack, Victor does not hesitate to show his coldness and power. His feud with the Abbott family is nothing new, however, this time, it seems to be reaching an unprecedented level. While Michael tries to convince Victor to find a peaceful path, nothing can shake his iron will. Victor is not only determined to get revenge on the Abbott family, but he also despises Kyle Abbott and his influence over Clare, a key part of this war. Victor believes that Kyle's admission of his position at Jabot has damaged the Newman family's image, and that his continued suppression of Kyle will give Newman Enterprises an advantage. However, Victor's contempt for Kyle not only increases tensions between the two families, but also causes anxiety in the Abbott family. Nikki Newman, the peacemaker in a difficult situation. Nikki, the wife who has always tried to keep the peace in the Newman family, is now in a difficult position as she struggles to play the role of peacemaker between Victor and Jack. She cannot stand by and watch her husband continue to sabotage the relationships he has established, especially those with Kyle and Clare. Nikki is frustrated with the constant confrontations between Victor and Jack, and she begins to have doubts about how Victor's actions are affecting the Abbott family. However, in her role as mediator, Nikki cannot help but try to find a solution. She understands that continuing these tensions will not only harm the Abbott family, but could also make the situation irreparable. But no matter how hard she tries, Nikki realizes that she cannot change Victor's mind. When he decides to pursue revenge, Nikki has no choice but to watch this war continue, not only between the two families, but also within her own family. Jack and Kyle Abbott, finding salvation through conspiracy, realizing that they cannot sit idly by and let their family be pushed into a difficult position by Victor, Jack and Kyle decide to find a strategy to protect Jabot and the Abbott family. After much discussion and thought, they decided to use Elliot as a double agent, a smart but risky move. It is undeniable that Elliot can help Jack and Kyle gain an advantage over Victor, but this plot will also put them in many unforeseen dangers. Matheson, with his important role, will likely contribute a lot to helping Jack and Kyle gain the upper hand. However, even though Elliot is a talented spy, he cannot guarantee that this plot will not backfire. Therefore, the unpredictable moves of both sides will make the story more and more tense. The consequences of war. A turbulent journey with every move of Victor, Jack and Kyle. It can be seen that each step contains calculation and risk. The clashes between the sides not only affect the interests of the corporations but also deeply impact family relationships. If Victor continues to pursue revenge, he will face many difficulties in maintaining his power in the Newman family. As for Jack and Kyle, even if their scheme succeeds, they still have to face the possibility of counterproductive, when each decision has unpredictable consequences. By using the spy as a strategic chess piece, Jack and Kyle hope to regain control and protect Jabot, but in a war of tricks, no one can be sure of who will be the winner. Can Victor continue to maintain power in the Newman family? Or will Jack and Kyle prove that their strategy can turn the tide? This is still a big question mark, and the story of The Young and the Restless is sure to continue to be exciting, with many unexpected twists. Newman vs. Abbott, Victor determined to revenge, Jack and Diane defend, Nikki attempts to reconcile. On The Young and the Restless, complex relationships and family strategies are always the source of tense and unexpected conflicts. The feud between Victor Newman and the Abbott family is escalating, and in the upcoming episodes, both the Abbotts and Victor prepare for major confrontations. Victor won't back down, while Jack and Diane are planning a strong defense. But Nikki, meanwhile, is stuck in the role of peacemaker, facing tough decisions and strained relationships between the parties. Victor Newman, determined to revenge and challenges the Abbott family. Victor Newman has always been a character known for his strength and determination, and when it comes to family battles, no one can surpass him. The feud with the Abbott family, especially Jack and Kyle, is nothing new, but in the next few episodes, it will come to a head. Although Michael, Victor's only son, has tried to convince him to give up his revenge and seek reconciliation, Victor is still determined to pursue his goal. For Victor, revenge against the Abbott family is not only personal but also a matter of honor and power. His relationship with Jack has long been irreparable, and Victor's contempt for Kyle Abbott only complicates the matter. Victor not only wants to attack Chabot, but also wants to put Kyle in a difficult position, making him pay for what happened in the past. This not only causes tension in the Abbott family but also affects the relationship between Kyle and Clare, an important part of this war. Jack and Diane Jenkins, finding a way to defend and unite the family while Victor continues to pursue his revenge. Jack Abbott has no choice but to defend. Jack and Diane will sit down together for a strategy discussion to plot their next move in this fight. Diane, despite being part of the Abbott family, still feels like an outsider. Jack realizes that in order for Diane to truly fit in and feel like a part of the family, he needs to give her a chance to participate in the Abbott family's major decisions and defense strategies. Diane has always wanted to feel trusted and valued in the Abbott family, and giving her a role in Jack's plans could be a way for her to feel like she truly belongs. The strategy discussion between Jack and Diane will not only focus on fighting back against Victor, but also be an opportunity for Diane to prove her worth in a tense fight. The two will make predictions about the next phase of the conflict with Victor, preparing to deal with any attack Victor may unleash. Nikki Newman, the struggling peacemaker. While Victor and Jack are focused on the fight, Nikki Newman, Victor's wife and the family's peacemaker, is having a hard time keeping her place. Nikki doesn't like the constant tension between her husband and Jack, especially Victor's constant contempt for Kyle Abbott and how it affects Clare. As someone who wants to protect her family and keep the peace, Nikki can't sit idly by as she watches these clashes. However, no matter how hard she tries, Nikki realizes that she can't change Victor's mind. He is too determined to get revenge on the Abbotts, and Nikki can do nothing but watch the drama Victor is staging. This leaves Nikki feeling even more confused and trapped, as she doesn't want her family to be caught up in this senseless war, but has no power to stop her husband. Jack and Kyle Abbott, plotting to turn the tables around. Realizing that this war won't end easily, Jack and Kyle decide to come up with their own strategy to protect Chabot and the Abbott family. After much discussion, they decide to use Elliot as a double agent. This is a bold strategy, because although it can help Jack and Kyle gain an advantage in the war with Victor, this plot also contains many risks. Matheson, with his abilities, may play an important role in helping the Abbott family win, but this plot can also backfire. If Elliot fails to do his job well, everything can fall apart and the Abbott family will face serious consequences. While this strategy offers hope, it is also a double-edged sword that makes Jack and Kyle have to carefully consider every step. The war without end, consequences and aftermath. Although Jack and Kyle may have gained some advantage with their spy strategy, the war is still ongoing with great threats and challenges. Victor does not give up easily, and when revenge becomes his sole goal, it not only pushes the Abbott family into a fierce war but also damages important family relationships. Meanwhile, Nikki, despite trying to reconcile, cannot stop her husband's rage. With Victor's determination, Jack and Kyle's calculations, and Nikki's efforts to reconcile, this war is sure to continue with unexpected changes. When each side has its own plots and strategies, no one can be sure that they will be the winner. This makes The Young and the Restless an unmissable story, with dramatic and attractive twists. The Abbott and Newman family war, and the dark conspiracies. Life in Genoa City has never been peaceful for powerful families like the Abbotts and Newmans. The feud between Victor Newman and the Abbotts has lasted for generations, and now the relationship between Kyle Abbott and Clare Newman, while on the rise, is facing unforeseen challenges. Especially when Clare, who is part of the Newman family, feels torn between her love for Kyle and the legacy her family has set for her. Opening scene, Kyle and Jack Abbott. That day, in the tense atmosphere of the Abbott household, Kyle sat with his father, Jack Abbott, and shared the big decision of his life. "Dad, Claire and I have been thinking about moving in together," Kyle said, his voice filled with determination but also with worry. Jack looked at his son, his face full of approval. "I've always supported you, Kyle. Your relationship with Claire is important, and if you think this is the right move, then do it. I even think the Abbott mansion would be a great choice for both of you. But it seems like you're hesitant about something?" Kyle frowned, a hint of hesitation crossing his face. "Claire's still confused, Dad. She's having a hard time with Victor not accepting us. The tensions in the Newman family, it makes her feel like she's in a bind." Kyle's voice dropped, as if he was torn between his duty to the Newmans and his love for Claire. The sudden interruption, Holden appears holding back from his worries. The sudden appearance of Holden Novak was a shock to Claire and Kyle. Holden, with his cold and decisive nature, was not simply a new character. He was Victor's strategic pawn, someone who immediately faced Claire with the most difficult choices of her life. Claire saw Holden walk into the Jabot office where she and Kyle were sitting in a discussion. A sudden wave of tension washed over Claire. She didn't want to face the Newmans, especially Holden, who had a close relationship with Victor. Just standing there, with his cold eyes and confident demeanor, was enough to stir up everything around her. "Claire," Holden said, startling everyone in the room. "We need to talk about our relationship." Claire turned away, her eyes conflicted. Kyle took her hand, sensing the insecurities Claire was struggling with. She couldn't continue living in the shadow of the Newmans, where Victor's every move was watched and controlled. And now, Holden has officially become a major obstacle in her relationship with Kyle. "I was ready to walk away from all this," Claire whispers, her eyes welling with tears, "but I can't ignore the legacy my family built." Kyle and Jack confront Elliot. The nature of war. Meanwhile, Jack and Kyle Abbott are confronting Elliot, whom they have long suspected. They discover that Elliot is Victor's secret agent in Jabot's employ. At once, no one can imagine that the Abbotts will force Elliot to do something he never thought of, become a double agent. Kyle coldly confronts Elliot, his every word a coercion. "You were part of Victor's plan, but now you're going to work for us. We need all the information you have about Victor's schemes." Jack couldn't hide the determination in his eyes as he looked at Elliot. "There's no room for betrayal in the Abbott family. If you want to survive here, you'll have to cooperate." This tension was a sign of a relentless war between the two families, where each side was willing to use any means to protect its interests. Elliot, forced into a difficult situation, had no choice but to agree. "I'll do what you ask," Elliot replied, but there was still a hint of fear in his eyes. Victor and Michael Baldwin. The athletic club discussion. At the athletic club, an important meeting took place between Victor Newman and Michael Baldwin, who had always been his strategic advisor. Michael sat across from Victor, his face solemn. "Victor, I can't help but worry. One of our agents at Jabot has given us the cold shoulder." Michael sighed softly, the worry clear in his voice. "I think we should give up this war. This is not a war we can win." With Holden's arrival, the tension in the story increases. Holden is not just a simple character in Victor's strategic picture, he is an important chess piece, strategically placed to drive a wedge between Claire and Kyle. Holden will not only be a challenge to Kyle in love, but also a threat to the unity of the Abbott family. Meanwhile, Victor's complex plots do not stop at Kyle and Claire's relationship. He also calculates ways to disrupt Nate and Audra's relationship. The fight is not just about power and control. It is a fight to maintain family and honor, where every move can change the outcome of the war. Ultimately, Claire is faced with an irreversible choice. Can she continue her life with Kyle, where love and sacrifice can conquer all difficulties, or will she continue to live in the shadow of the Newman family, where her every decision is monitored and controlled? This situation will push Claire and Kyle's relationship to a crucial crossroads. Will love prevail, or will the Newman family and legacy continue to be an insurmountable barrier? This will create a major turning point in the never-ending battle between the two most powerful families in Genoa City.